1 week from tonight, Browns will be on the clock. It all begins. Massive draft 2025 preview. All eyes on Cleveland starts now. Welcome to the OBR Streaming Network. This is All Eyes on Cleveland. Welcome on in. Good to see you all here filing into the chat. All of you that we appreciate so greatly. Give you a round of applause. Thank you for coming on in. And yeah, we're fired up, baby. 1 week to go. My name is Brad Ward. The man next to me is Casey Kinnamon. What's going on, big Case dog?
I'm ready to wrap this thing up. I'm ready to get to the end of this finish line. I'll say this: I'm not ingesting any more prospects. It's everything's locked and loaded. You know what I mean? My thought process is, I'm just ready for it to end. To be honest with you,
the work is done.
Yes, sir.
The work is done.
Yes, sir.
Do you believe Andrew Berry when he says that they have not decided who they are going to pick yet?
As a rule of thumb, I just never believe Andrew Berry. If you believe Andrew Berry, we wouldn't be signing the oldest quarterback in the league. We're about to skew younger in the quarterback room. But I know the only time I believe Andrew Berry is after the fact. After the draft's over, that press conference will be enlightening, and you'll find out more about their processes and how they looked at these guys. But everything before this, man, it's just word salad.
Yeah, it does feel like a million miles journey, Levi. It does. It feels this draft process case to me, at least for me, has felt like one of the longer ones ever that I've gone through.
I mean, but how much of that also is we've been like without a first round pick for years.
Facts.
So you're picking it 2 overall, just like all the doors that opens up, And yeah, it's been a long one, man. It's been a long one, that's for damn sure.
Yeah. Andrew Berry talked about, he got the questions you would expect from him on Travis Hunter. Yeah. We can talk about it real quickly. Just your thoughts. You heard what Travis Hunter had to say. Mm-hmm. I think it was taken a little bit out of context. If you hear the audio, which chat actually put me onto on Tuesday, they said, listen to the audio. It's not quite as bad as it sounds in print. The whole I don't even want to play football if I can't.
Yeah, it looks defiant if you read it.
Yeah, and it doesn't sound that way in the audio. Oh, thanks, Levi. That's really nice. We appreciate that. Absolutely. Steven Kramer. 7 days till spam Kinnamon. We'll get to that. The spam bet is in the shot clock is winding down. Mm-hmm. I need to know if I should get it on the old shopping list. What do you think?
I mean, if I was you, I would.
Are you getting it on the shopping list? That's the most important question.
No, man. No.
No. You don't think that Dart's going in the first round still?
He might. It is definitely not a layup, a lot of dominoes. We'll talk about the pivot points in this draft, but
yeah,
there's a couple landing spots. Like I went ahead and I completed my 1 through 33 mock draft for our contest. And, you can see a couple places where it makes sense for certain teams.
Yeah. So we're going to look at that, and we're going to talk about the first round and some of the key points in it. Mm-hmm. Will I get a Travis Hunter jersey after the draft? Sure. That'd be a cool jersey to have. 12 is my favorite number.
Oh, that's dope.
12. That'd be cool. So
it's an off-season thing to do. So, I mean, this isn't the time to do it. But I've sat down and I've chronicled like the best players at each jersey number. 12 is Diesel. If you look at the history of 12 in the NFL, you know what I mean? It's lengthy, and
Oh, is
not
it?
position players. It's been quarterbacks.
Yeah.
So if he could add his name to that list, that'd be dope.
Yeah. So and we've talked about this a little bit, but just real quick, real briefly, where are you at with him on the both ways thing?
Same where me and you were last week. It's like, I need you to master your craft, but if you can take more on your plate, I'll put more on your plate, but you got to show me that. I'm not just doing it and burying you. Like, show me you can do all these things. Show me you can knock out the offensive playbook first. Show me that you have a complete mastery of that. And then we'll work on the other things. I think for me, it's more of a final form thing than what he can do day one.
Yeah. I'm looking up average number of snaps in an NFL game.
I would guess 72.
Typically plays around 63 snaps per game on both the offensive and defensive side of the ball. So, 120, right? 126. So, here's the question. Like, it sounds like if you're going to take him, you need to be comfortable involving him in the defensive side of the ball right away. Something that I'm not really comfortable with. If I had my druthers, I would have him focus on receiver first. But it sounds like if the Browns take him, they've had these discussions already, and they're certainly comfortable with a plan.
Yeah.
What does that look like to you?
Well, that's been my thing. The entire journey with Hunter was, no matter who drafts him, they have to have a plan, and their plan he has to be in with their plan. I would do what you're saying. I would unload the offense on him first. Because you can simplify defense and just play him in certain man coverages at first. You can do things that make it easier where communication isn't the key. But if you're going to play a breadth of snaps on defense, communication is of the utmost importance, and knowing all the calls and side adjustments and everything that comes along with it. So, but he's been doing this his whole life. I don't know how complicated their scheme was. I know obviously Shermer was the offensive guy, so he's had some NFL terminology thrown at him before. I don't know what they were looking at on defense. I don't know. It's a crazy problem to have, is what I'll say.
So,
we've never seen it before.
Yeah, so I've had some conversations with some smart people in the last 24 hours or so that even said they're fine with him playing 50% of the snaps on defense and as a perimeter corner, which kind of surprised me because I always kind of thought of him as like a hybrid. If you're going to use him, at least initially, down the road, if he's doing it full time, like, because 63 offensive snaps, how many is he going to play? You're going to have more wide receivers. You can play like 40, right, in a regular game.
Yeah.
That's
30
good,
to 40,
right? Yeah. So then on the defensive side of the ball, what do you want to play? How many snaps do you want to play him? And where? Are you going to just throw him in at outside corner? And is that the easiest thing to do? Because that's what he's done his whole life.
I mean, if you're going to keep it simple from a transition standpoint, you want him doing something that's applicable to what he's done in the past, but you also have to look at what you need. So I don't know. Where does this team sit with Martin Emerson? We know that where Denzel's at. If they view Martin as the full-time starting corner opposite of him, it's tough for me for just an experiment's sake, could throw this kid in his place if we don't know that that's his ultimate landing spot.
It's a tough question. I mean, Emerson needs a bounce back year. I think it's fully within the range of outcomes for him to have a great bounce back year. So,
dude, I mean, we're talking a 3-season sample size and 2 seasons of him playing elite.
Yeah, I've seen more good football from him than bad in a Browns uniform. Yeah.
If you look, his rookie year was good. His sophomore campaign was amazing. Look at the quarterback rating. Look at the quarterback's completion percentage when targeted. Everything was elite. Everything was top of the league. And he did have a down year last year, and it didn't start off that way. Camp, he looked amazing. Something happened along the way.
Yeah. I still think he had to be hurt or something. He just didn't look right. Yeah, because in camp, he was shutting down Justin Jefferson and all that stuff, and the hype was huge around him. I think they intended to. I think we would have been talking extension this offseason had he had the 23 season, he was a top 5 corner by a lot of metrics in the NFL. Passer rating against, completions, things like that. So, yeah. So where does Hunter fit in? Yeah, it's interesting. Along the lines there, if they do take Hunter, one thing that I think is worth pointing out here is, do they trade Greg Newsome?
We've kind of thought that's been on the table the last few off seasons. I think that if you do draft Travis Hunter, it has to be on the table.
I think it's on the table for let's just do this then. You're watching All Eyes on Cleveland. What are there any players that you think could potentially be traded during the draft? Greg Newsome, yes, right?
Yeah, he's one for sure.
I'm with you in the chat there, Skeezer. I am a fan of Kim Mitchell. I would like to see him get more snaps. I'm actually even a fan of
Miles Harden.
Miles Harden, and we haven't even seen a ton of him, but I like his moxie. So if you can, the interesting thing about the draft is this, Casey, with players, and I realized this when I was screwing around with PFF Simulator, right? And I made 2 player trades in my simulator in my mock for today. That's at theobr.com. Go check it out. And but I don't know how equipped it's not very equipped to handle that trade scenario with the players. I don't know how they have that done, but you know what I mean. But Charlie Chuck said it right there. Yeah, I have Ogbo getting traded. And I think he's on the block. And if you can't, and same thing with Newsome, if you can't get a certain amount of value for him there's something about draft day. This is my thought that I came to when I was doing this. Something about draft day where if you say you want a 4th or a 5th for Newsome, right? Is that reasonable request?
Yeah. Yeah. I mean,
3rd.
We would once upon a time we would have said a 2nd or a 3rd. I think that's where we're at. I think we're at
years ago. Yeah.
I think we're at a 4th or a 5th. And you got to think about that chasm you have between 104 and 179. There's 75 picks going there for the Browns to make that selection. So if you could kind of get in that sweet spot in between there, give you a little more flexibility. I would also add White Teller to that list.
Yes, I think Teller is on the list. I don't know if I'm as comfortable as moving off of him yet.
Yeah.
I would like to see this push in the run game this year.
Yeah.
And I think he can be a part of that, especially the pivot back towards the wide zone. Obviously, they're not just going to be running the zone stuff. They're going to be doing it all. When their run game was at its best, they were multiple.
Yeah, pin, pull, wide zone. Yeah. They haven't run much duo, and it's something that's getting into the league. You need usually bigger interior players for that. I'll say a lot probably pivots on, is Zinter up to speed? Is he fully recovered from his injury? Because he was a hell of a run blocker in college. He'd be someone that you'd feel more comfortable if you thought he had his legs under him.
Yeah, I'm with you, Charlie Chuck. I would like to see him keep Wyatt. I agree with you, Case, though. It depends on where Zinter's at. But one more year, that's all he's got on his deal. Just keep him around. Let's see. For me, this year isn't the year to do that. I don't know what you could get for him, but the point I was making, I keep trying to get to, but I can't, is because I can't speak for some reason, is that, you want this value for this player, but when it's presented to you in a package of like, hey, I want to get up to get another player, and you can look at that player that you want, or your room wants, or your war room wants. Say we want to move back up into the third round to get a running back that they love. Pick your running back, right? Say Caleb Johnson's there, and they're like, "Oh God, we love this guy. We want to go get him." Greg Newsome isn't worth a third round pick normally, but if you take a pick and Greg Newsome and it gets you to the third round and you get Caleb Johnson out of it, that's why the draft just creates so many more scenarios where you can potentially squeeze a little more value from these trades. That's why I think it's a good time to look to try to trade Greg. I'd love to get that $13 million off the books. I would even think about trying to trade him and just take another corner with the pick you get. Take a $13 million fifth-year guy. Take Jacob Parrish in the fifth round, a guy that can play inside, outside, just like him. On a rookie deal. That to me is like a no-brainer, right? Like flip him, get the $13 million off the books, and replace him with a guy that can do very similar things on a younger, different deal. Thoughts?
Yeah, extends the window.
Yeah.
Levi pointed out in the chat, though, with Denzel's injury history, it makes everything murkier.
It does.
As far as being able to move on from people. Because Greg can do that. He can go outside and be serviceable. He's not a replacement for Denzel, but Denzel is a top 5 cover corner in the league.
But if you're drafting Travis Hunter and you take another corner in this draft.
Yeah, you should have bases covered. But that's, it's putting a lot on. I mean, and Travis Hunter sounds like he wants all the smoke, so I'm not trying to stop him from getting the smoke. But that's putting a lot on his plate. If all of a sudden, Denzel goes out and you're CB1 right off rip.
Yeah, it's interesting though to think about. Ogbo, I think they should try to move him. If you can move around this board and get the guys you want, use those guys as ammunition. Teller, I think it's a good point to bring him up as a potential guy that could get moved. I would prefer to keep him for now, but
yeah. Well, you also find Tevin Jenkins if Zinter, if you have enough pieces in place that look like they're going to be sufficient, because you said it, he's going into the last year of his deal. If you're going to make one of these moves, you do it now because that's how you get something out of it. And I'm not even advocating for doing it, but I think it's something that at least has to be discussed.
Yeah, absolutely. So those guys, I think, are the guys on the board. All right. Casey did a first round mock for us tonight. I was supposed to do one and I failed. I was so in defense of myself. This isn't any excuse, but I tried to allocate the right amount of time today from when I got home to do this. So I wanted to hang this TV right before the draft, and case it came. I wasn't expecting the mount to come in like 60 pieces.
You thought it was going to be a solid mount.
I just thought it was going to be something I could drill, stud finder, put it on there. It didn't. 60 pieces. So it took me much longer to hang than I thought, but it looks good. No,
yeah, it looks perfect.
Improvement to the room,
and you can't tell. People watching at home can't tell, but to get that image to show up, you got to turn your brightness all the way down. Because if it's not, you wouldn't even be able to read that on screen. Yeah, right now,
and it moves too, so I can pull it over here, whatever. So it's kind of
just a cool. Quick behind the curtain. So was that going to be the position it's in for the draft? Or are you going to move it over so you can face camera and screen for the draft itself?
I don't know. What do you mean camera? What
you're going to be facing the camera like as you are right now during the draft talking? Are you going to reposition the TV so that you can? Are you going to be watching the draft on the TV, or is that just going to be for the backdrop?
So I have another TV here to the left. That is for watching, and then I have my second screen So,
congratulations on all your success, Brad.
No, I'm not. I'm just showing you, a little before the wall. So right here is, draft board, everything. When we're on the show, on the big screen connected to the laptop, and then their TV over there for watching TV. So there's a lot of screens in here, but I wanted to add this one just for, professional.
Yeah. Yeah. I behind to pull back the fourth wall on me. I have another computer monitor over here. My end goal is to have a TV in front of me on the wall. I have yet to get that. So I'm not my goal now, because my goal originally was by the draft. I have to push that back. And by the regular season, I got to get that ready to go.
Yeah, man, you've always had good setup. You had the TV up, you had the Pickett, but before Kenny Pickett was a Brown, you had the Pickett picture going in rotation.
This is my third office in the same house. I keep getting kicked out of rooms by my daughters.
Yeah,
so
it happens.
I'm in the smallest room. They can't kick me into another one. This is it. So I gotta pull the trigger on that.
Yeah, OBR
Sure
War Room.
do.
Yeah. The OBR War Room. Yeah, we'll have all the screens going Thursday through Saturday. Draft Cave 2025. Expect you all to be here, locked in for it. We'll have you covered wall to wall. Got the schedule out. Everybody's doing good. Yep. So I can't wait for that. All right, let's get to your mock draft. I threw this together. Brad outscored LeBron and has multiple screens. Yep, Rocky, you're right, man. Big time.
Facts. I see no lies.
All right. What pick would make my head explode? Probably some kind of aggressive move to take Tyler Shuck in the first round might make my head explode.
I don't want to think about that.
That would really set me off, Case.
You won't be alone.
Is this the one? Is this? You know what? This isn't the one. Bear with me. So yeah, there's gonna be pivot points in the first round of this draft that we're gonna be watching for. What's the?
Well, we're sitting in the one that everyone else is watching for. It's us.
The Browns are watching us. I mean, the entire league are watching the Browns. Pardon me. The Browns are watching us. The entire league is
watching us.
They should be. For this thing to go down. And where did I put this thing, Case?
I don't know, man. I couldn't tell you. I know I sent them to you on Slack.
I know you did. But so the entire league will be watching us for, it's a big, at least regarding the first 10 picks, it's a big pick, right? The question is, what's the next point for you that of contention that impacts that you'll be watching, that we should be watching closely? 9,
the Saints.
9.
And if you'd asked this 2 weeks ago, that wouldn't have been the case. But with the news of the Carr injury, and it sounds like he might miss the season. How much of that's real? How much, but that does put an emphasis on them to make a move at quarterback, which speeds up the clock for other quarterbacks to start coming off the board, which could affect your second round greatly.
How much of that is real, Case?
Who knows? Because it came out of nowhere. It wasn't like, do you remember an incident where he got hurt during the season?
No.
And we didn't hear any breaking news. Carr was in training and tore a rotator cuff or whatever, because they're not even disclosing what it is because they don't have to, because it's not during the season. But it would have to be something catastrophic for him to miss an entire year.
Yeah.
Especially not happening during the game, to happening during training or.
What would be the reason for him wanting to do this?
What's the reason for them wanting to do this?
What's the reason for him falsifying this?
Is it him or them, though?
I feel like it would be him. Why would they falsify it?
So they can have a reason not to play him. They've already paid him.
You don't think they want to play him? I
think they want to leave their options open, and this does that.
Really?
Or it's really, or he destroyed his shoulder in training, And did he do it at the facility, or was it, you know how this goes with off-season injuries if they don't happen. If he was playing basketball, and who knows? That's the thing, is it definitely didn't happen during the season, and it's happened since then. Here we go. Look at that OBR draft logo right there in the middle. Make it look like I meant to do that.
Yep. I do what I can do when I can do it,
You did well, sir.
All right. This is Case's masterpiece. Let's get it started. So you got Cam Ward 1. That's a done deal, right? There any chance in the world that that they surprise us on draft night and don't take him?
Only, if they're at 1, they're picking him. Cam Ward's going at number 1 overall. Is it Tennessee, or does someone make some Hail Mary effort to get up there? Either way, he's going number 1.
Okay.
And this is a stick and pick. I didn't pull any trades off for this. I just went 1 through 33 because I wanted to get our second round pick in there.
Yeah, it's good stuff. Travis Hunter at 2. You think as of right now, 7 days?
Yeah.
This is the pick for you, yes?
Yeah, I've been here about 3 weeks now. And don't get me wrong, man, because it was a lot of juggling, is going back and forth between him and Abdul. And then there's the thing is, there's no wrong answer there. It's not like, well,
right,
whatever you do is a correct answer, because those are phenomenal players. They could have phenomenal careers based on what you want to do with them. I just like my end game is, no matter what happens, if both of those players get to their very highest possible outcomes, Travis Hunter affects the game more.
Yeah.
So that right there for me is the tiebreaker.
I just think there's a chance that he is, and in both. But to me, I got a lot of this week when interacting with Ken and his show in the morning a little bit. Hunter would have been, the 8th person taken last year, or this or that. Who cares? You can only play the board that's in front of you, A, and B, to me, there's a clear two blue chip players in this draft, and then there's a drop off. Yeah. It's Carter, it's Hunter, and it's Ward for me. Ward's going to be gone. I don't think there's a wrong answer between Carter and Hunter. I do think that Hunter provides you, he can be an offensive weapon, which is probably the thing the Browns need the most, which does sway me. As much as you're not supposed to let that impact you, it impacts me a little bit.
Yeah. Yeah.
Not gonna lie.
In my mind, it can be a tiebreaker. It can't be the reason, but it can be a tiebreaker.
Yeah. Like, I don't think you can take, here's where I'm at. I don't think you can take Travis Hunter as a two-way player. I think you have to like him enough as a one-way player to take him at 2. And I do.
And if the other thing materializes, that's the bonus.
Yes. Yeah, absolutely.
Agreed.
So you got Carter then going right to the Giants. So this last minute Giants working out Shedeur a week before the draft is smoke for you, or trying to get
it could be just trying to get someone to lobby up, and don't get me wrong, man, they could be torn in their front office. Yeah. There could be people banging the table for Shedeur,
Yeah. I mean, they got to fly all the way out to Boulder to do that a week before the draft. That's just crazy. So, but wild stuff. Okay, so Carter there. Mm-hmm. Will Campbell let me go through a couple of these. Will Campbell first. You don't think Mason Graham? You got Will Campbell going to the Patriots. I think that's what we've been hearing, right?
Yeah, I just think that Vrabel's going to build that from the interior. He's going to build from the inside out. He's going to build the line, try to make him as nasty as possible on the trenches.
Mason Graham to Jacksonville, Genty to the Raiders.
That's my first uneasy pick.
Your first what?
Uneasy pick. And I'm not saying Genty's not phenomenal. It's hard for me to put a running back that high in a draft. But it's just I think about what Pete knows what a solid running game can do, what they were able to do with Marshawn Lynch. I just think that he understands the value of that, because if it was a newer coach and these guys are all going on analytics, and maybe you don't take a running back that high. I'd say, and this deep of a running back draft, it's kind of hard to do it. But if you believe that dude's truly that special and can be the engine of an offense, you make the pick.
I feel like it seems like a Raiders thing to do. They are under different management now.
Yeah. And how much influence does Brady truly have in the draft? He had a lot of influence in free agency, that's for sure.
Yeah, he did.
With coaching hires and everything else. So I'm assuming.
So this is one of the points where I'll be watching for Shador, maybe.
Mm-hmm. Yep. He came to mind.
But then you go Membu, Jalen Walker, and then you have Sanders coming off the board at 9. So our pivot point we talked about being 9. For me, if he gets past this, you're looking at a little bit of a slide probably.
We're Tom Petty. We're free falling if he gets past 9.
Yeah, for sure.
Didn't mean to put him on here twice, by the way. That was me screenshotting erratically.
No worries.
The player's so nice that I drafted him twice.
They took him twice, yeah. Jalen Walker at 8. So I heard, who was talking about this? Somebody I was listening to, or maybe it was somebody told me I was talking to, that the Georgia guys, Jalen Walker
and Michael Williams,
and what's that?
Michael Williams,
yeah,
the other Georgia
are wildly over rated by the media compared to NFL teams. We'll see if that's true or not, but that's just something I heard.
I can't speak to Williams. I can say that there are people that are very fascinated with Jalen Walker.
Certainly a fascinating player. He's like,
it's so much of a projection because everyone thinks he's an edge. But it ain't it's not what he's done to this point. But everyone's like, he's way better at that. So,
yeah, let's check that out. So, Walker, Sanders. Okay. Do you want to talk real quickly before we go into the next row here about Jacob's contest?
Yeah, absolutely, man. This is actually the draft that I'm going to be entering in Jacob Roach's first round mock draft contest. If we can throw his email up here, all you got to do is you can do any mock draft simulator you want. It's $5 as the entry fee. His email's right there. You screenshot your whatever mock draft you want to do, 1 through 32. Send it to Jacob. He'll send you the details for payment. All the money goes to Culture City. That's Culture with a K. It's an autism awareness nonprofit. They do phenomenal work. All that money's going there. The winner of this will get whatever draft merch they want of their choosing. But you guys are all going to be watching the draft. You know what I mean? Let's make a game. Everybody should get involved in this. It's $5. Yeah. It goes to a good cause. Yeah, I would guarantee you, if everybody who watches this show, at least a third of you do mock drafts. Just do 1 through 32. Take a shot. If you win, if you don't win, you just got to play along, and it makes the draft even more interesting. So do that. Culture City. You can look it up. It's Culture with a K. And if you agree with what they're doing, throw $5 at it and get to play a game along the way. And if you win, get your Jackson Dart jersey or whatever you want. Jacob is indeed a man of the people. I can verify that.
And it's a cool thing he's doing. And
yes.
So there's the email right there. Get involved. So very cool. Thanks, Case. All right. Line 2, Tyler Warren to the Bears at 10. I absolutely love our OBR draft logo. Obviously, you can tell I put it in here. I put it behind me. But it's so cool. I mean, so well done by
it's dope.
Seth.
Yep,
but yeah,
shout out to Seth.
Michael Williams, shout out to Seth. And then Tet to the Dallas, which is interesting. Will Johnson to the Dolphins. Interesting workouts with Johnson this week. Didn't run the 40.
Yeah.
But for me, he is the best corner in the class, including Travis Hunter. So
Yes. And the thing is, he's coming off injury, so it's hard there. And the reports are that right now he's running in the low 4.6s. He's still in his recovery process. Put on the tape from last season though, from the 23 season, dude. Like that dude is a dude. And at the beginning of this, he was a top 5 pick. Before he got hurt in this draft cycle, he was a top 5 pick. So for him to fall to 13, I know the Dolphins are actually like thinking about moving on from Jalen Ramsey. For me, this was a perfect fit for him to step in there. The Tyler Warren to the Bears is one where I'm not hearing anything about. I just think he fits that blue collar mentality. I just think that they would eat that up. And I know they have Cole Kmet, but I wouldn't let Cole Kmet stop me from getting what could be a top upper quartile tight end in the league and another security blanket for Caleb.
Yeah.
And everyone's kind of, if Genty makes it past 6, he's not making it past 10. So I think this is their pivot move from not getting Genty.
Fumble asking if Sanders gets past 9, could Miami look at him? So there's a couple teams that I don't think people have thought of as far as that would be interested, including Miami. Who else do you think that would be like a sleeper quarterback spot in the first round that not a lot? It hasn't been highlighted. Like Pittsburgh's been highlighted, right?
I don't think you have to at least put Dallas in the discussion because of Jerry.
Yeah.
And he could be the plan to move on from Dak eventually. Jerry's just such a wild card, and the Sanders, they have a history. Obviously,
what about the Rams? That feels like if they loved one of these guys, that feels like a pick where they would be like, yeah, we need to get our guy of the future now.
Well, we'll talk about that when we get to the next page because I believe they're sitting at 24.
Yeah, I think that's Minnesota, but right around there. Yeah. All right, so we're down to line 3 so far. Great job, Case. Colston Loveland, Mike Green at 15 to the Falcons. Off the field issues there. Doesn't fall too far.
It was tough. It was tough putting him there, but I try not to dive too deep into need, but like we're going on a decade of the Falcons needing a pass rusher.
Yeah.
This isn't like they need a pass rusher. He's explosive. You do have to be comfortable with his off-field issues. And that knocks him off certain teams' boards. Period.
Yeah. Then the corner from Texas to the Cardinals, right?
Yep.
Malachi Starks to the Bengals. This is an interesting pick here. Certainly they can use a safety, but I've kind of been of the belief all along this is a pick the best edge available for them.
Yeah, it could be. But you're also looking at styles of edges, and the one that would fit what they want to do is Stewart.
Yep.
Who is famously unproductive in college. He just has all the physical traits.
Yep.
So for me, I just look at. I think Starks was almost similar to Will Johnson. I just think Starks is a phenomenal player.
Yeah,
and they've. I mean, it's benefited the rest of the people in the AFC North, but the Bengals had a dope secondary and just let it go. And they tried the draft replacements and put them in before they were ready, and it just didn't work out. This is them taking a stab at a high end safety.
Yeah, and then Matthew Golden to Seattle, which makes a lot of sense with the DK trade. I like Golden's game a lot. Campbell to Tampa Bay. This is so interesting. Amarion Hampton all the way up at 20 to Denver, but man, him in Denver is a nightmare for the league.
Agreed. I took no pleasure in putting him there, but
yeah, That is like a match made in heaven, man. That would just be terrible for everybody.
And for me, it all
else.
came down to skill players for Denver. You know, they could use another receiver to go alongside Cortland Sutton. They could use a tight end, but if you just look at the way the board played out, I just think Hampton makes all the sense there.
And then Ibuka to the Chargers, which is a need for them. That's an interesting pick at 22 there. Anything else you want to say about this row? Pivot points.
Kenneth Grant going to Pittsburgh. They lost Ogunjobi to Buffalo, and then he got suspended. And they got Keanu Benton and they got Hayward. But hey, we're getting near the twilight. We're getting near the end of Hayward. This is just them getting another body to kind of, keeping that system, man.
Is anyone worried about Philly taking a QB higher than expected? If Hurts goes down, all they have is trash DTR. Could be a spot for Miller. I think they'll fill their backup position. I don't think they view DTR as their backup. If they do, they're insane. Because he's not capable of backing him up in any capacity, in my opinion. And B, am I wrong? You think DTR? You think they view him as their backup in Philly?
No.
Okay.
Who's the other kid they played this year? I'm drawing a blank over here.
Pickett.
You look good.
Oh, yeah, they got another guy.
Yeah. I don't think they view DTR's backup, and Philly doesn't panic.
Yeah.
They're not going to do a panic move.
Charlie Chuck with a very interesting take here. I think Hampton is one of the most overrated players. He's good, but ranked too high. Whew. I like it. I like his film a good deal.
Yeah, me too, man. I think I would entertain things. So it's a deep running back class. You have Genty 1. If you wanted to tell me you got Travion Henderson over Hampton or Judkins, I'll listen to you. He's a stud, man. Hampton is a stud.
Yeah, I have Henderson higher than a lot of people do.
Mm-hmm. There's reasons for it, like
his burst, his speed is special.
Yeah.
He's a game breaker, and
So Jeffrey Champion put it in the chat. Tanner McKee was the
McKee. That's it.
Yeah, I don't think they're worried about DTR taking snaps.
Yeah. So as we moved on to the rest of Casey's first round mock, any pivot points you want to hit on there that we should really be watching? You mentioned Pittsburgh is definitely one at 21.
26. You mentioned it earlier with the Rams. They're a team.
Yeah.
We talk about like the best time to get a quarterback is when you don't need one, because then you don't have to worry about taking one that's maybe not ready for prime time right away, and then you can actually groom them. So that was a point right there. Everybody wondering in the chat if I was going to put Jackson Dart in the first round. That's where he came up for me. That was the debate in my head at 26. But with them just moving on from Kupp, they need another playmaker alongside Puka. And Burden fits their profile to a T.
Speaking of Jacob, as we just talked about, and his emails running across the bottom of the screen, I heard Denver loves Henderson. Could be a spot for the Browns to go up to 20 for a QB, and then Denver takes Henderson at 33. Interesting. Case, I was afraid Manwari would end up in Baltimore. Aren't we all? Great point, Levi.
Couldn't do that. Well, they Harrison Smith came back for another season. They lost their free in free agency. So I think he's a perfect fit for what they want to do for the aggressiveness there. So
yes, Case definitely trying to avoid the spam with making this mock, putting this mock out into the universe to try to make it a reality. Okay.
Look, man, if he'd have been the best fit, he would have went. Couldn't do it.
All right. Shamar Stewart to Green Bay.
Mm-hmm.
He's so intriguing as a player. No production though. It's hard to take him, but that's a good place to take him in the 20s if
What's
you're going to
crazy is
roll
they
the
did
dice.
this 2 years ago with Lucas Van Ness,
Yeah.
physical mutant, and not a ton of sack production. And they're still waiting to see if he's going to be something. They need edge rushers, and for me, he was the best available for the style they use.
Amonwari to the Vikings. If the Vikings make a pick like that, which I think is a really solid pick, I think that kid's a special player.
Mhm.
The Vikings are shaping up to be a legit force this year for me.
Yeah, I mean, much like every other team, a lot of their hopes are on a young quarterback who hasn't proven anything yet. But if you look at the pieces around that kid, like they've set him up to be as good as he can possibly be. Whatever he does will take them as far as they go.
Yeah, a PW fan 02 says someone will fall in love with Stewart before 21. I think good for sure. He's easy to fall in love with when you're looking at the
The
metrics.
measurables.
Yeah. All right. Simon Simmons. Sorry, pardon me. Josh Simmons, Ohio State to Houston. Luther Burden to LA, which is very interesting. But yeah, he would be replacing what's his name, right?
Cooper
As
Kupp.
their slot guy, Cup.
Mm-hmm.
Booker to Baltimore. That's fine.
Phone booth Mauler.
Yeah, but I wouldn't be mad at that. Like, it's a lesser of several evils, I think. Donovan for the edge from Ezraku from Detroit, just getting better there. I like him a ton. I think he'll help right away. They traded for our guy last year and then cut him. He is the opposite side and adds to their pass rush. And then Gray's able to Washington, which is a smart pick.
Yeah, protect your investment. Once obviously Jaden Daniels is phenomenal, but you got to keep him healthy. And this is just an investment in that.
This is an interesting one. Any pivot points there you want to point out? For me, 24 is a point of interest, only because the Browns have the relationship with Kwesi. If there was a quarterback there that they covet, that they were worried about coming off the board, or for some reason Sanders really fell down the board, say that the rumors are true about his interview going terrible with Pittsburgh and all that stuff, and that's not a concern anymore, and he gets to 24, that's a place I would be watching. Right?
Yeah, for sure.
I think they need extra picks this year too, right? Aren't they short on picks? Maybe not.
Yes, they have 5 total.
Yeah, only 5 picks. So
24 for me, the 139 is the one I'm looking at, just because the Browns go from 104 to 179. So
you gotta get one in there, and there's a ton of value in that 5th round too. That I feel like right now they're missing out on. They gave away their 5th round pick in the most ridiculous trade in franchise history.
yeah.
Just saying something considering they traded for Deshaun Watson, but they followed that up with one for Kenny Pickett and gave around a 5th in the process. So we're really on fire with the trades right now involving quarterbacks. All right. Next up, Derek Harmon is an interesting pick at 30.
Yeah, that's also another team. Like when you're in a position that the Bills are and you have your quarterback and it's just, okay, load up on the other side of the ball. He'll make things work on the offense. Throw him some bones every now and again with some skill players. You went and got Keon Coleman last year.
Yeah.
Now this is just, and you moved on from Von Miller. So go get a player like Derek Harmon. Harmon is a crazy penetrating player. Like his penetration is ridiculous. he comes in out of control a ton, but like that dude lives on the other side of the line of scrimmage.
Kelvin Banks to Kansas City makes a ton of sense. And James Pierce Jr. is just an ideal fit with Philly. I've seen that mock before. Makes sense. I would say this: Jalen Milroe at 33. If he's there, it seems like the Browns, that almost seems like a layup, right? I've told you my concerns with this. I understand why. If you really love Milroe and you want to bet on the kid, and you do this, then let's do it and give him a real shot. But like, if you're taking him as a project and ultimately in the grand scheme of things, you're looking at, even, Barry said he looks at quarterback. They look at quarterback classes 2 years at a time. So if you're looking at next year's class and you view that as the answer, according to Jimmy's talk about, we're not going to force it. Don't force it here either. If
I agree. This isn't what I would do. This is what I think will happen.
Yeah. Because a 2-contract starting player, 33, is an incredibly valuable asset. Plus, it's the overnight pick. If you stick there, you could have tons of guys or tons of teams calling you overnight. Somebody falls out of the first round they didn't expect to, that they love, they really want. You could get a ton of really good offers there to just go back just a couple spots. It's just really interesting. I will say this: if they are going to take Milroe and he's there at 32, I wouldn't be surprised to just see the Browns flip the Eagles a 7th, go to 32, and get that 5th-year option. That seems like a no-brainer.
Behind the process here, I am 100% against trading up into the first round to get the quarterback, unless you're doing exactly what you just said and what you did in your mock draft, because you're moving up one spot. You're going to flip him a back end pick. This isn't, because I see people like they need to get back up ahead of the Steelers if they want a quarterback. That's forcing. That is if you're flipping, you're literally just gaining a year. Like, it's, to me, that's worth it, especially for a guy you view as a project. That 5th year is more important for a guy as opposed to someone they better be playing by year 2. Milroe, you don't have to force into the situation. If you trade up into the 20s, the fans will force that kid on the field. They're gonna be like, you gave up this, and this, and this. And don't get me wrong, man. Like, we haven't even talked about it, but since the last time we had a show, they signed Joe Flacco. And if you would have told us they did that before free agency period, probably wouldn't be too excited. But given how free agency played out, this is probably the best possible outcome of the players that were on the board, right?
Yeah, absolutely.
You feel good about that, but it is you've definitely like raised the floor of that room now to where you don't feel like you have to make a desperation play. Yeah. So like I have no problem if you want to develop a quarterback, but you have to stick to that plan. Develop him. Give him the best shot possible to reach his final form before just being thrown out on the field and sacrificed to the football gods like we've seen happen time and time again.
I get it that you have to swing, right, at quarterback, but it's just, you better really love him and be committed to the process if you're going to take him there, because 33 is highly valuable for your roster.
I hurt my feelings is not drafting Josh Connerly right there.
Yeah. Or
hurt my feelings, to be honest with you, but it's, this is a predictive. This isn't what I would do. Kind of looking like people's thought processes are different. Everyone's like, if you think that you have to get a quarterback in this class, this isn't the class to force it. Like, you have to come away with your future quarterback out of this crop. Like, that's a bad process. If you get a quarterback, cool, and if he develops into something, that's great. But to put that pressure on, you have to get your quarterback of the future in this draft. It's a scary ass proposition, in my opinion.
If you look at what it costs to go up, last thing here, I know you got to go. If you look at what it costs to go up into the teens, You're talking like 33, 67, and another something, you know what I mean?
A
Like,
starter. You're talking future starters by doing
or
that.
like, yeah, and maybe like if you're going all the way up to like 15 or something, it's like a next year second or whatever. You might as well have just taken him at 2. If you're going to give up that many assets, just should have just taken him at 2.
Yep.
If you're that convicted to take him at 2. Don't wait to 15 and give up your entire draft and an asset next year. That's just insane to me. So I would understand going after him if he gets to the mid-20s, a player, if you really love him, or just flip in a 7th for 32. But I don't want to come off of a haul to try to get back up and pull some kind of coup when you could have just taken the player at 2.
Yeah. No, I
They
agree.
need too much as far as youth, an influx of talent on the offensive side of the ball for me.
You have 5 picks in the top 104, and I'm not trying to give up any of those.
Right.
That's what it comes
Right.
down to. We need those. Those are all players of consequence. When you look at the way this thing falls out, that's where the meat of the draft is. It's top heavy with a couple blue chippers up top, and then if you get to like 20 all the way to like 80, it's pretty. Everyone's pretty close. No one's really separating out of that. So you got to make those picks count. And AB, just for the perception for the fan base, you got to walk away with starters this year, not guys that are just part-time contributors and we're waiting on them to. You need to draft guys that are going to play meaningful snaps this year.
Yeah, you have an opportunity to really get better. This draft isn't an all-world draft, but there are the guys there at the offensive positions you need. Running back, there's some guys at wide receiver that would really help if you play the board right.
Tight end's another one.
Tight end is another one.
Another one.
Absolutely critical players to this offense as we turn back to full Stefanski, with Flacco at the helm. If you want this to work with Flacco, you better have a damn good running game this year.
Well, everybody points to the proof of concept where we've seen it work. Well, we've seen it be explosive. Is what we saw in 23. It was an explosive offense. You were still turning the ball over, but you had no running game, none.
Yep.
You couldn't close games out.
Yeah.
Could not close games out. So even if you still turn the ball over, but you are explosive and you had a running game, I feel so much better about the situation.
Yeah. Yeah. Last thing here, I know you got to go again. You're going to get bombarded.
Yeah, it's all good.
The Flacco thing, like, I feel better having him here. I don't think it should preclude you from kicking the can on Cousins down the road if they are like, we want to get rid of him, or Carr.
Yeah.
Or Carr. I feel like you
look at the contract. The contract doesn't stop you from doing anything.
You should explore those issues as they come along. Not that I necessarily feel like Cousins is a better option than Flacco because of what we did see from him. But if you could add a weapon, say you add a Travis Hunter, and then you add a good back, and your offensive line comes together, and you add a tight end, and all of a sudden, I mean, they could go from the worst offense to a rather explosive one in 1 year.
A dangerous one, yeah.
Yeah, and then if you had the defense, I mean, if you pass on Carter, it's a super deep edge class. You should be adding one at some point anyways to this group that already is good, and you have developed – that's one position. You have developed guys in Alex Wright.
And McGuire, and you went and got Tryon, and yes.
So you brought in Tryon. Low-key, they've added a couple guys. I mean, we don't, they asked about JOK again, but low key, they brought in Jerome Baker and you mentioned Tryon Shoyinka. So, those are like kind of low key moves that I like a lot. I mean, they haven't been overwhelming. Let's be honest.
Yeah, not super needle movers, but things you got better in those areas.
but they've made moves where they want. Last thing I want to ask you about. So draft happens. I have like a 3-thing, like real basic list that I think that they should be looking like priorities after the draft. 1, 2, 3. Regardless of what happens in the draft. What are your main things?
I'm gonna say sign Nick Chubb.
That's my first one.
Sign Nick Chubb, man.
My first one.
Yeah, that's. Beyond that, I almost have to see the draft play out before I would say priorities. What's the kicking situation? We can't act like last year wasn't a nightmare. Like, you got to bring someone in. I know you're paying the kid, but you cannot allow that to cost you games.
They have a guy right now named Andre Smythe, Szmyt.
Yeah. Well, I have not done the work on him to feel confident that is going to be the answer. If
I don't do work on kickers.
Look, man, I'll watch some stuff. I'll even go back to college. I just want to see what your ranges are. But D-Hop, what D-Hop did in 23 versus what he did in 24, maybe he gets a bounce back, but 23 is an outlier. He's been solid, but if you look at 23, that is an outlier. That was way better than he ever performed. So I think that's probably unrealistic, but you cannot allow that position to cost you games in the NFL.
I think Chubb is number one. Get the guy back in the building regardless. Get him in. He's talking like he's got a chip on his shoulder. Don't let him go anyplace else. And he validates your locker room. He validates your team to a certain degree.
He's the heart.
Sign him. Get him signed. I would bring back Elijah Moore.
Okay.
On a low, whatever contract, because of the connection and relationship with Flacco. The best Elijah Moore we've seen has been with Flacco, and they are close. We know that they know each other from
the time
New York.
Yep.
And we saw him show out with Flacco. It was by far the best football we saw him play. He's a hard worker. He's still younger than most of the guys they've drafted. He's only 25. And worst case scenario, he raises your floor in that room. Lastly, I still think they need to sign a safety.
Yes.
Even if you
draft. Sign. This is a multifaceted approach. You did lose DeAnthony Bell. Obviously, you've got the post June 1 on Thornhill, so you need to replace that. You need to bring someone in with Hickman to a minimum make him compete. But I want another veteran voice. I want to free Grant Delpit up to do a lot of awesome things. Yeah. So for that to happen, I need a starting caliber free safety back there. Simmons would be sweet.
Yeah, Simmons would be perfect for me. And I would love to see them draft. I mean, I've mocked what is it, Mukuba?
Yep.
To the Browns like 100 times in this offseason.
Yep. Kevin Winston Jr. There's some players. It's not a deep safety class, but there's some gems in there.
We could get Justin Tucker. Get the hell out of here. So you want to have a safeties that can. You want Delpit to be Delpit is a weapon on defense, and you can't have him just because he can play deep. You can't have him bothered with that. You want your secondary, and when they are at their best, they have guys that both guys can do both, and you can create real issues as far as what quarterbacks are seeing back there. So,
I just think the quarterbacks have to locate him. You come last from, you got to locate him. You got to find him, and figure out if he's playing big nickel. Is the overhang? Is he playing deep? He needs to be one of those players for you.
Yeah. All right, man. We will be back. I'm gonna stick around for a couple minutes and answer some questions.
Yeah.
But I know you got to go. We will be back 7:00. a week from tonight. The draft starts at 8. We'll have All Eyes on Cleveland / 2025 Draft Cave at 7, an hour leading up to the pick, breaking it all down. It'll be me and you and
Jack, right?
Jack is going to be there, and then everybody else will be getting in for that second pick. We'll be on the clock pretty quickly, I think.
Should be.
And Barry wants to use the whole shot clock, so we'll be there. We'll talk it all out. I'll have spam in the house just in case.
Look, okay,
two.
say I'm just let's get ahead of it. If I were to lose the bet, which is definitely on the table, I'm going to eat the spam the following Thursday on this show
Okay.
because I'm going to need to cook it. I'm not just going to raw dog the spam out the can, dog.
Yeah, me neither.
So I'm going to have to cook it, you know. So it's 100% on the table that it's going to happen, but it's not going to happen until the following Thursday. We'll make a big to do of it.
Things to do. Send Casey a can of spam. All right. Thanks, man. Great job on your mock, brother.
Appreciate it. Once again, everybody in the chat, man, do the first round mock draft challenge. Contact Jacob Roach. If you didn't get my instructions, because I probably weren't clear, you can use any mock draft simulator you want. Do 1 through 32, screenshot them, send them to Jacob. He'll show you where, PayPal or whatever. Get the money. It's for Culture City. That's Culture with a K. Look it up. If you're comfortable with it, throw $5 in. If you win, you get some draft merch and a title, a mock draft champion. And you're going to be watching anyway. You're going to be watching here with us on the streaming channel next week. So let's all get in it, man. Let's have a good time.
We always have a good time. We appreciate you guys. And there's his email running across the bottom. Case, have a wonderful evening with your family, man.
I appreciate it. Thank you, guys. See you guys next week.
Big Case, dog. Nobody does it better. Casey Kinnamon had to bow out tonight. He has some family responsibilities, but he crushed that mock for sure. And has crushed the draft season. So great job, Case. Just me and you, folks. Questions? Anything you guys want to talk about before we get out of here? Watch the film. Anything from Andrew Barry's presser today? There wasn't much there, in my opinion. But yeah. Top targets at 33. Boy, you got to think that somebody falls out of the first round that it happens every year that you didn't expect. Emeka Egbuka could fall there. James Pierce could be a guy that if you go Hunter is there at 33. If you're not going to go quarterback, there could be a number of guys there. And as Fumble says, I also think overnight that this draft gets pretty flat from as far as talent wise, it kind of plateaus. Late first round, no, earlier than that, around 11 or 12 into 40. So if you go back 5 spots and still get the guy you want, I think that's a good trade down spot because guys that are teams that are at 45 to 50, 55, and somebody falls that they really covet. Josh Connerly is certainly on that list, Dustin. Absolutely. He solves a lot of problems, I think, for the Browns. But yeah, so if you take Hunter at 2, yeah, I think that Connerly, any one of the top 3 or 4 wide receivers, if they fall out of the first round, I think it's possible for Egbuka I don't think Golden will fall. I think it's possible. It's in the realm that Luther Burden falls, but like he's too sick. I mean, we don't need it. We don't need another slot, right? So, dream scenario at 67. This is where I think where the running back run starts will be really intriguing, right? So we know about all the running backs in this class, and at 67, you wonder if that run doesn't start in that in the third round or in the late second round there. Pardon me, heading into the third round. So at 67, as Dustin said, if Henderson is there, I'm very interested. I think for me, he is elite burst and speed, and the kind of guy similar to a Jahmyr Gibbs who changes your offense with that speed. I also think you can get a guy very similar to him in the later rounds, and I can never say his name right. Chanel Tootin from Virginia Tech can fly and just slams it through the whole pause. Yeah, slams through the offensive line, and love him as a later round option to fit what the Browns are going to do in the run game. Tootin from Virginia Tech, I'm super high on. My guys in the draft are, as I've mentioned before, Jacob Parrish is a corner I love later. Not later, but like, fourth round-ish. The 104-ish area. I think he is a stud, and I think if you're gonna trade, he is my ideal guy if you're gonna trade Newsome. So if they did move Newsome in this draft, you could even trade Newsome for a fourth. I love the idea of trading him for a fourth or however you maneuver it in the draft and getting Parrish back because he can do exactly what Newsome does, and you're just shedding $13 million and you're getting a prospect on a rookie deal, and a fresh young face in there. So I love what he does. I also like Darian Porter a ton. I don't know if they take Travis Hunter, I don't know how hard you're looking at like a true outside corner, but the Darian Porter story at cornerback is wild. It's insane. Yeah. It's this kid, Porter, I think he's from Iowa State, I believe. Played wide receiver for the first 3 years of his career. Here he is. He's 24, so whatever, but he played wide receiver for the first 3 years of his career at Iowa State. And then moved to corner. Yeah, Dustin, his tape is impressive, but it's like a mystery. Like, why wasn't he playing for like 3 years as a starting corner there? He played wide receiver, then they moved him to corner. All this time, he's like their special teams ace. He has like 5 blocked kicks in this time. He's 6'4", 200 pounds. They move him to corner, and then he starts playing corner in his 5th year, and his film is ridiculous. To Dustin's point, it's ridiculous. He's a total stud. 6'4", 200 pounds. Really intriguing, weird story. Makes you wonder about, like, what the hell was going on the years before that. Yeah, Parrish, my guy, is 21 years old. 5'10", 198. Love the versatility. Plays with some dog in him. So I like him at corner. Other guys, I mentioned Tootin at running back. If you're looking for a value guy, Henderson. There's so many good running backs. And then let's see, who else are we looking at here? If we're looking wide receiver at 67, I don't think anybody would really like going wide receiver at 67 just because how many times have they taken a wide receiver in the third round, right? But Trey Harris, I like in that neighborhood, right? Pat Bryant from Illinois is certainly an interesting guy, but I think that's too rich at 67. You know, if you're looking offensive line, say you don't go offensive line at if you don't, yeah, he is a stud, absolutely. If you don't go offensive line at 33, at 67, there should be guys there that are interesting as far as who OG Philly wants Savion at wide receiver. So I think Donovan Jackson is gone, but Ursary from Minnesota, Ozzie Trapillo is somebody that I have kind of earmarked as a guy in that round I like, but he's older, so I don't know if they would do that. Jonah Saviania, however you want to say that. He looks like a guy the Browns would take in that third, fourth round. Wyatt Millum is certainly interesting. And a guy that we know that the Browns kind of like a little bit later on, maybe in the fourth round-ish, is Charles Grant from William & Mary. So some guys to keep an eye on there if we're looking offensive line. Who else? Safeties, I love Makuba. When will he go off the board is the intriguing thing there. I think it's possible that somebody really falls in love with Makuba and takes him before 67, which would be, that would be tough. But yeah, you got to keep your eye out for PFF has Nick Amonwori going rated after Andrew Makuba. That's wild. I don't think it was like that before. They might have changed that recently. Because Amonwori is a lock for the first round, in my opinion. And Makuba, I have seen a lot of times being mocked in the third. Malachi Moore is a good late option, I think, Levi. If you're looking later on in the draft, RJ Mickens. There's a guy, Billy Bowman Jr. from Oklahoma is interesting. He's not what you want. He's not going to play center field for you, but he's one of these hybrid guys that can play some nickel and do some different things in the secondary for you. He's a fun player. But he doesn't. The problem I have there is he doesn't fill that, how hard are you trying to fill the free safety, the center field safety role? You have Hickman. You got to bring a veteran in anyways, but are you drafting someone too? These are all questions we don't know. I would like to see them draft a safety and sign a veteran. Not that I have a problem with Hickman. I just think that is one of the areas on the roster right now where it gets real thin pretty quick, especially with Bell leaving. So, yeah, those are some thoughts. Any other questions, guys, before we get out of here tonight? Savion is an intriguing intriguing. There are some wide receiver prospects. To your point, Philly. There are some guys. So Kyle Williams is a weird one, right? Kyle Williams is a guy that I could not stop watching when I was watching Cam Ward's film, right? And you just can't help but fall in love with him. Now he's coming up boards, but he was like nowhere to be found for a while. But I love his. I mean, he to me is a baller. Savion is very interesting. He's a little older, but it would be later on. 6'5", 225. No production there, but his measurables are out of this world. Torrey Horton is a solid guy, a guy that had kind of he understands the nuances of the game. I feel like he could be a good player at the next level. Stay away from Isaiah Bond. I'm not down with the world-class sprinter that can't catch. We've seen that show before here in Cleveland. Dante Thornton Jr. from Tennessee is certainly an intriguing late shot. Freakish 4.3 40 at 6'5", 214 pounds. That is wild and worth a shot at. Anybody else you guys want? Yeah, the two kids from Florida are very intriguing. Will Shepard is a guy that I would listen to. Yeah, absolutely. Badger, yeah. And is it DK? So all of those. Ja'Cory Brooks is interesting. There's some guys. I mean, it's not a great wide receiver class, let's be honest. Compared to what we have seen like the last 2 years, and probably what we'll see for like the next 10. This for me is kind of like I can't imagine seeing a wide receiver class this depleted of top tier talent or the depth that we just seen like an overwhelming amount of talent at this position the last few years, and I think that's just a trend that's going to continue. You're just going to see tons and tons and tons of good wide receivers every draft. This year is just kind of a strange off year for that position. Man, me too, Jeffrey. Thrash. I gotta admit, like I wasn't in last year's process. He wasn't a guy like I had circled that I wanted them to go get. But I was intrigued when they did. And he didn't really do anything to turn me away last year, but he didn't do anything to get me excited either. So, but he hasn't had like a real shot yet. You would like to think that one of these years Barry's going to hit on one of these kids, these wide receivers. I do think that Tillman is a hit. They're in a weird position with him because you saw what he can start to be. Like you saw the infancy of his, finding himself as a pro receiver and being exactly who you want him to be, and Cedric Tillman, and being the true X for the Browns, right? That you need him to be. We saw that, but then the concussion just ruined everything that we just saw. So it's like you believe that you have this guy in Tillman, but you can't bank on it. It puts you in a weird spot as a football team. It's like I think Tillman is going to be great. Totally agree with you, MC. I think he's going to be great, and Judy and Tillman would be perfect. But it's like you can't totally bank on it because you saw it for such a small sample size. That concussion just screwed that up. but yeah, that's kind of why I like an Elijah Moore signing. Just he's a guy that can play every wide receiver position. He raises the floor, and him and Flacco have some chemistry already. Yeah, I mean, Tillman could be excellent, and he certainly flashed that. Um, so that would be a massive win for Barry. Yeah, so if you guys want to talk tight ends real quick, I mean, this is a good class for that, right? They taketh with the receiver and they giveth with the tight ends and the running backs, right? So, you know, Fannin is obviously the trendy name here. Terrence Ferguson, I think, is probably like a guy that if you chose to go that direction in like the third round, he to me is like the most NFL ready guy to come in that part of the draft. NFL ready guy to come in and play inline tight end and be a receiving threat right from the get. Now we know the Browns like to get the receiving guys and then mold them into the blocking aspect. If they're a willing blocker that's good enough, we'll get them there. It's kind of like their philosophy. Ferguson can do both right now. I like Hume. I mocked him to the Browns yesterday. And he is there too, as well. As far as not a guy that you're gonna have to spend, the total teaching him how to block. He can block already. He can run block and he can catch passes. So I like Gunner a lot. Him and Ferguson are very similar in that way, I believe. Fannin is a fun, exciting guy, more of a project, a guy you're going to have to get to block. And then, Arroyo, obviously, Mason Taylor. These are all guys that are great, are a ton of fun, but you'll have to develop them into being the kind of blocker that you want them to be. Later on, Jalen Conyers is a fun prospect, late. I think Aronde Gadsden the second is a fun shot, like super late if you're picking in the 6th or 7th. He's only 21 years old. He's 6'5", 236. He's basically just a huge receiver. But I like what he brings to your team. And what he could turn into. So, yeah, yeah, me too, Levi. But yeah, the Gadsden is a guy that I would love to see them take a shot on late. If you're talking late. I think they'll address tight end before that. Honestly, it's a good year to do it. And it makes a lot of sense. The one thing we never really talk about is, and we'll kind of wrap this up with this. The one thing we don't talk a ton about is linebacker with JOK, and we mentioned, I think Jerome Baker is a good signing. But who do you guys like at line? Who would you like to see that? What would you like to see them do at linebacker? Are you ready to make a commitment? I'm not really ready to. I expect a more inline. OG Philly saying I expect a more inline receiver type. Njoku is already a three down tight end. That's a good block. Receiving tight end makes more impact. Yeah, totally agree. That's kind of what I was saying is that they'll probably lean to the receiver type and then worry about what he can do as a blocker after that, as long as he's a willing blocker. But here's the thing with the linebackers, right? Like, JOK, we don't know, but it doesn't sound good. Baker was a really good signing. I think that was smart. Not a great class for it. There's nobody like I want to take. Yeah, Baker, Bush resigned, and of course Diabate. I think is like your core three right now, and it's escaping me. Their best linebacker is Jordan Hicks, obviously, but with those guys, they should be fine. I don't think, Levi, I don't think you need to reach on linebacker. I think you let it fall to you. There's a couple guys. Cody Simon is certainly interesting. There's a kid from Iowa named Jay Higgins, who would be maybe even a UDFA, but a day 3 guy that I think is right up the Browns' alley. Smart, productive player, 6'2", 232. Covers well, tackles well, plays with his hair on fire. Can help on special teams immediately. Simon. Kobe King is a guy I like. Disrespect. Simon from Ohio State, yeah. Kobe King is a guy I like as well. I've mocked a couple times. From Penn State, another guy later on in the draft who I think can fill that role. The Brown, the guys that are higher up here, I mean, I just can never see your favorite guy is like Demetrius Knight, right? But he's one of the oldest prospects in the draft, and it's just like I can't see the Browns, and I don't necessarily want them to. Stutzman, great call, OG Philly. Stutzman is a good player from Oklahoma. He is a guy in that same realm. So the King, Stutzman, Simon, and Higgins, even later, Higgins and Stutzman a little bit later, are guys that are interesting. But we're talking about day 3 players. I would have to think for most teams as far as linebackers. So I don't expect them to reach because there are a few guys there at the end that they can add, and they've done a really good job. Something that Pete talks about, when you see these deeper UDFA classes, like I would expect that this UDFA class is deep at running back and linebacker, maybe. Demas Johnson, Kentucky. I'll listen to that. He's a fun player. But like, you make it look like there's a path for them, or they see a guy like Diabate or Ronnie Hickman playing and making an impact on your team, and it gives you a good selling point to guys that are want a shot. And if you have a draftable grade on them, he has, Levi. That's one as inconsistent as he's been in the draft. They've been smart about their approach with UDFAs, and they don't hesitate to make them priority UDFAs and give them a little money to guarantee that they end up in Cleveland. So I'm sure there's a few guys they feel that way about, that if they don't draft a second running back, I would expect them to put in a priority UDFA on like their favorite second back in this class, because this running back class is just so deep, and you can find what you want at any level of the draft, really. So I expect them to either draft 2 or draft 1 and have a priority UDFA in and sign Chubb And for me, it's like, listen, your running back room is going to consist of, if it was, this would be my approach. It would be Nick Chubb is going to be a part of this room as long as he's healthy. Whoever you draft, and then who should be an elite back and raise the ceiling of what you can do as an offense in general. But after that, and it's nothing against the kid, but Ford, Pierre Strong, Ford more importantly, because I like what Ford can do as a player, and he has some home run potential, but you got to beat out the second back that I bring in, right? So the second back you bring in from this draft, you got to beat him out for your spot on this roster. And if it's a guy like Tootin or something like that, I think he loses that battle, but we'll see. We shall see. That's it. We're going to get out of here. Hour and 40 minutes. Preview to the draft. A lot of pivot points. We've talked about them all. We talked about the guys that could be traded. To keep an eye on Newsome, Okoronkwo, Obugnaya, Ogbo, Will, excuse me, I'm losing it here. Wyatt Teller are all three names to keep an eye on. I would prefer to stay away from trading Teller at this point, but Ogbo and Newsome make sense. And sometimes in these drafts where, outside of the 3 days of the draft, getting a 4th round pick for Newsome may be difficult, but during the draft, when it's a pick and a player and it gets you where you want to go, you can kind of carve out that value. So that's kind of why I think we see some of these trades during the draft, for guys that you're ready to move on from. And I think that if they got the right offer, they'd be ready to move on from Newsome. And I think they certainly are ready to move on from Ogbo. So it's a deep edge class, especially if they add another edge, and they're already kind of loaded there. If they take Carter, it's just he's either going to get cut or traded, I would probably think at some point. So you try to move him when you can get value for him here. If it's Hunter, and I'll be happy either way. But if it's Hunter, it should be interesting and exciting. So, listen, guys, you guys are the best. Thanks for hanging out with me after Case left. He killed it tonight too. Appreciate you guys hanging around. Good show. We're getting ready, man. We're working hard for the Draft Cave 2025. So keep it locked at the OBR streaming network. Hit like, subscribe, and that notification bell so every time that we go live. And with that, I'm gonna get out of here. I hope you guys have a lovely evening and an even better weekend. If you're in Northeast Ohio, we should have some warmer weather finally. And hopefully it stays that way. So enjoy that. Enjoy your loved ones, and get it fired up for next week, baby. Just 7 days away. Appreciate you all hanging out with me here tonight. For Casey Kinnamon, who killed it, my name is Brad Ward. This has been All Eyes on Cleveland. Have a wonderful, wonderful evening. We are out. Yeah, and happy Easter.